Asheebo Rojas. I'm with the Chatham Journal. Asheebo Rojas is with the Chatham News and Record. Coach Berry is not joining us today. He's on his way to somewhere on the West Coast. So it's going to be primarily going to be talking about what's coming out in the Chatham News and Record newspaper. We're going to talk about last week's scores and results, athlete of the week. Spring sports are in full force, including volleyball at JM. Baseball, softball, soccer, and track. I've been to a couple Seaforth and Northwood lacrosse games. We'll touch on that. And then we'll go over what we're going to be over the next 7 days. Asheebo and I know what we're doing tomorrow evening, but we may give you an idea as to where else we'll be during the week. So let me bring Mr. Asheebo on here, get rid of that, and go live. Okay, there we go. All right. Asheebo, let's kick it off. Let's talk about what you've got in this week's Chatham News and Record. Folks, we've already got several folks already watching. Thank you so much. We have a steady crowd of you every week and appreciate you all watching us. All right, Asheebo, it's all yours.
Yeah, this week we got a couple of stories on some games, some signings, and of course we got our regular roundup with all the sports and scores from the previous week. So as far as games, we got the game story from Seaforth and North Pitt, the girls basketball regional final where Seaforth fell short to the Panthers. And then we also have Jordan Matthews and Northwood's baseball game from Friday. Jordan Matthews beat Northwood to split the season series 10-7. And we have more on that in the paper coming out this week. And then signings, we had a couple of signings at JM. Ian McMillan signed to Brunswick Community College, and Aaron Seitz signed to play football at Guilford College. McMillan is signing at Brunswick Community College to play baseball. So a lot of great things, a lot of athletes being recognized here in the paper this week. And then also, too, just to run through the scores from last week and the roundup in baseball, we started with Seaforth. They went undefeated during the week by beating Eastern Randolph 3-0 on March 13th and Chapel Hill 5-4 on Thursday in 8 innings. And then Northwood, they beat Jordan Matthews 11-4, like we had mentioned in the first game of the series on March 12th, but they lost to Orange the next day 5-0. And Jordan Matthews, before beating Northwood 10-7 on Friday, they lost to Cedar Ridge on March 13th, 15-5. Chatham Central, they split the week, losing to Bartley Yancey 14-4 on March 12th. And they won over Southeast Alamance the next day, 12-1. And Chatham Charter, they won 3 games in a row, beating River Mill 17-1, the Bellantine School 6-4, and Clever Garden School 9-3 during the week. And just to highlight, in those 3 wins, we had their senior, Aiden Allred, combined for 8 hits, 8 RBIs, and 2 home runs. So he had a great week for the Chatham Charter Knights there in baseball. And in softball, Northwood, they had a good week. They started with an 8-4 win over Seaforth on March 12th. They lost to Cape Fear 11-0 on Thursday. Bounced back with a 15-0 win over Graham on Friday. And then Chatham Central, they beat Graham 16-0 on the 12th. And they also beat Lee County 6-0 the next day. And then Monday, they did pick up their first loss of the season, though, losing to Western Harnett 11-1. And then Jordan Matthews, they grew their winning streak to 4 games with a 16-5 win over Southeast Alamance and a 2-0 win over Eastern Randolph. But they lost to Southern Alamance on Friday, 13-3. And then Seaforth, they lost to Northwood 12-2. Also lost to Cedar Ridge on March 13th, 12-5. And they also lost to Apex Friendship 15-6 on Monday. And then Chatham Charter, they're continuing to roll through in the softball season. They dominated River Mill 21-0 on the 12th. And then they needed 9 innings, though, to beat Providence Grove on March 13th, 7-6. And they beat Clever Garden School 5-2 on Friday. And then the Knights beat Providence Grove again on Monday, 8-7. And then we go into girls soccer. Just to run through those scores right quick. Woods Charter, they won their 4th game in a row by beating Chatham Charter 15-1 on the 13th. And then they beat Research Triangle on Monday to stretch that win streak to 5 there, 9-0. And at Seaforth, they beat Graham 9-0. And Northwood, they split their week. They beating Southeast Alamance 7-1 on the 13th and losing to Lee County 7-0 the next day. And then Jordan Matthews, they lost to Asheboro on March 12th, 2-1. And I think this past Monday, Northwood did beat Jordan Matthews 9-0 as well in girls soccer. And Chatham Charter, they beat Triangle Math and Science on Monday 6-3. And then in boys lacrosse, we had Seaforth beating Western Alamance on the 12th, 13-8. They also lost they lost to Chapel Hill the next day, 7-3. And then on Friday, the Hawks beat Southern Alamance 11-4. And then Northwood, they won big over Eastern Alamance 16-3. Then they beat Western Alamance 10-7, but lost to Corrigan 14-2 on Saturday. And then Gene will have more about the game with Seaforth this week as we wrap up the stream here later on. And then the girls lacrosse, we had Northwood. They lost twice during the week, losing to Chapel Hill 22-1 on the 13th, and Leesville Road 14-11 the next day. And then the boys tennis, we had Seaforth beating Northmore on the 13th, 9-0. And then the Hawks beat Jordan Matthews 9-0 on Monday. Seaforth tennis is having a great spring season so far. And I don't think, not mistaken, I don't think they've lost yet this season. So hats off to them. And Chatham Charter, they lost to Burlington Christian Academy Thursday 8-1. But they also lost to Triangle Math and Science 9-0 on Monday. And then boys volleyball, like G mentioned, down in Jordan Matthews, they're having their first boys volleyball season this spring. We had the Jets. They did lose their first game of the week to Triangle Math and Science in straight sets, but they got that back over Ascend Leadership in the second game of the week, beating them in 3 sets. So Jordan Matthews picking up some early wins this season in the first year. Hats off to Coach Austin and the Jets for that. And then we had a couple of track meets last week too, at Asheboro, Southeast Alamance, and Northmore all hosted some of our Chatham County athletes. And we have all the first place finishers from each event listed in the roundup that you can pick up in the paper and read about there.
All right. Hey, let's touch on some of the things you were talking about. JM Volleyball. You had mentioned to me before we started that you saw them play at Carborough. What's that like to see boys playing volleyball here? I mean, it's not unusual in other states, and I mean it's a fairly common thing, but it's not a North Carolina High School Athletic Association sanctioned sport as of this moment. But what was your feeling in talking to the coach over there at JM on the volleyball? What's your perception as to how that's going, and what's your perception of the game against Carborough, and what's your feeling as to, is there a future where boys volleyball becomes part of the North Carolina High School Athletic Association offerings?
Well, yeah, so when they played Carborough, that was their first game, and they did win in straight sets. And the funny thing is, Carborough only had 4 players. So in that one, you could tell so a lot of the boys, this is their first time playing. They're having fun with it. It still was competitive at some points. The boys were really into it. And Coach Austin, talking to him and some of the Jordan Matthews players, it's really a learning experience. For Coach, it's learning how to coach boys this time, and he's, it's a lot different than, to him, it's different than coaching girls a little bit, because they already come in with the experience, with the knowledge of the game. With boys, it's kind of starting from the ground up. So you can tell with Coach Austin and the boys, he's really trying to coach them up, teach them the game. He's taking timeouts and making sure they know situations, how to rotate, and he's making sure he's rotating all the players so they can get a shot at each of the positions on the court. So it's really a learning experience for the Jets. And the good thing is they're also winning. We saw them, like I said, they beat Carborough, and then they also beat Ascend Leadership. So they are building skills while doing this. And Coach Austin told me, during some of the practices, they have some people walk in and see, what they're doing, and they'll actually stop, stay and watch. So I think the interest, it could definitely grow, not just at Jordan Matthews, but across the county. And I mean, I think the North Carolina Boys Volleyball Association has like over 80 teams. I definitely see, more schools, bringing this on either as a club sport for now, and it eventually becoming a sanctioned sport by the NCHSAA.
Hey, you mentioned you had a schedule for the JM volleyball team. Is that something you have available on your Twitter account? Because I think folks, like you said, folks may be interested in coming out and taking a look at that. Because, I played volleyball during the summer times in the park, but I don't think I've seen it in North Carolina or in Chatham County as a formal club sport.
Yeah, I can ask Coach West if I can share it, because I have a schedule of it that he sent me, but I don't know if things might change or if things are set, and I can pull it up now, and just kind of give the schedule for the volleyball team. Just 1 second. Yeah, so right now, the last game was Monday, Apex against Apex Friendship. They'll play again tomorrow. I think at home against Cary Academy at 4:30. Usually all their games going to be at 4:30 in the afternoon. Actually, no, they're at Cary Academy, and then next Tuesday on the 26th, they'll be at home versus Carrboro. So that'll be the next opportunity. If anyone in Chatham County wants to stop by Jordan Matthews and see the boys volleyball team play, they'll be hosting Carrboro at 4:30 Tuesday, March 26th.
All right, I'm going to have to ask you this question because you mentioned when they play at Carrboro only had 4 players. When Carboro's coming down to play JM on Tuesday, do you know if they're going to have more than 4 players?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Why don't you text the coach and see about that, because that might be good to know. I think folks would be interested in seeing it. You have usually it's six players on. Is it 6 players on the court?
Yes.
6 players. All right. The other thing too, and I didn't have this on our agenda, is the North Carolina Athletic Directors, the High School Athletic Directors Association had a meeting at the beginning of this week, and Northwood's Cameron Vernon, I think you might have seen a notice on that. He was presented with a excellence award. Now, I talked with Coach Vernon, and Coach Vernon's like, hey, you know what? It's not a big deal. I'm one of 8 people who got an award, and I told him, oh, isn't there like 1 million athletic directors in the state of North Carolina? He goes, no, there's not 1 million. I know there's not 1 million, but still, 8 out of 100 counties, and you think you've got multiple schools with at least 1 athletic director per school. That's still an honor. So give a shout out to Cameron Vernon if anyone sees him. I know we posted on our Facebook page. There's a picture of him with a nice big smile holding his plaque. So he puts a lot of time and effort in it. I happen to be involved with the Northwood sports quite a bit because I'm on the booster club, because Cameron Vernon said, hey, come and join us. And I said, yeah, sure. So, yeah, he's doing a nice job on there. The other thing, too, is the booster club at Northwood has also picked up a food trailer that still needs to be fixed up a little bit, but that's going to be going out onto the soccer field. So instead of just having a cable out there, you'll have concessions coming out of a small trailer. So hopefully that will be up sometime this week. I'm sorry, not this week, sometime in the next few weeks, because you got spring break, Easter break coming up in schools. Softball. I know I asked you about this last week. Are you going to come out with any kind of rankings or a rating sheet? Because I think there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. It sounds like a lot of teams are doing well, but how does Northwood compare to Seaforth, compared to JM, compared to Chatham Central and Chatham Charter? And I know this is the second or third week of play, so you still need to have stuff settled down. But have you considered doing anything like that? Or what's your feel as to who's doing well in both softball and baseball among the Chatham County teams?
Well, yeah, I'm actually glad you brought up baseball and softball, because I wanted to go over some of the scores from last night. And we had a lot of we did have a kind of a crazy ending at a game last night between Jordan Matthews and Bartlett Yancey in softball. But as far as a power rankings, I think I'm gonna ask some of the people in the county, the coaches, and I might even put it out on Twitter today, or if anybody's watching, do you guys want power rankings for baseball and softball? Because I went to the Jordan Matthews and Northwood game last Friday. That was the first baseball game I went to this season. And yeah, I mean, I feel like it's going to be a very competitive, very, very interesting year for softball and baseball, especially for softball between the 2 teams at the top, Jordan Matthews and Chatham Central. And in baseball, It's kind of like, it almost feels like any given night, at this point with baseball. So I think if that's something coaches, parents, anybody that's a fan of Chatham County sports here want, definitely down to do it.
Yeah, go definitely take Asheebo's advice. Send that in and let us know if you're up to it. I think that gives us a little bit of sense of who to watch out there. And as you said, there's a lot of activity going on. Have there been any players that you specifically noticed that kind of stood out, or is it too early in the season to say that yet?
From the couple of games I went to, of course, I think one that stood out to me at the Jordan Matthews Northwood game was Finn Sullivan as a freshman who was owning it on the mound there for the Chargers for a little bit, and also a very good hitter. He's just a very good all around player. Of course, the defending conference player of the year, Ian McMillan at Jordan Matthews, and a couple of people. I mean, a couple of guys at Jordan Matthews as well that were playing really well that night. Softball, Chatham Central, led by Carolee Dodson, Kelsey Hussey. They got their basketball players back, so they're strong too, and they got off to a good start with their young players early this season when the basketball players are still playing during the playoffs. So there's a lot of really good individual talent here in the county for both baseball and softball.
Let me ask you this, because we haven't done this yet. Did you have an athlete of the week this week?
Yes, I did. And athlete of the week for this week went to Amelia Cherry from the Woods Charter girls soccer team. Notice Amelia Cherry had a really good game against Chatham Charter on the 13th, in which she scored 15 goals in the 15-1 victory. And she's been, the leading scorer for the Wolves this season, scoring 12 goals in the Wolves' first 6 games of the season. So congrats to Amelia, and we'll have graphics and her athlete of the week link coming out pretty soon in the next 2 days.
All right, so folks, look out for that. We talked about softball, baseball. Again, men's soccer is during the fall, but women's soccer is going on now. Woods Charter last year made it to the 1A championship game. Lost to a charter school, I think, out of the Charlotte area. They're probably going to be pretty strong this year. Any other sense, or maybe we need to do a power ranking for soccer as well? What's your sense as to right now? I mean, it's early in the season, as to how the teams are doing here in Chatham County when it comes to soccer.
Yeah, as far as soccer, from what I'm seeing, Woods Charter, of course, is dominating the Central Tar Heel 1A conference. And I see them, being they will play some of our Mid Carolina teams too. They'll see Northwood pretty soon, and it's I think Seaforth down the road as well. I think Woods Charter, Seaforth, North 3, as far as girls soccer, and Jordan Matthews. I know they're still trying to figure out with a new coach, with Coach Aranda going in there his first year with those girls. So I think. But like I said, Woods Charter, I think, is right there at the top, along with Seaforth, who's also gotten to a pretty good start as well.
Yeah, I was going to tell folks, I know I covered several games last year with Woods Charter. I think one of them they did play against Northwood. It was a competitive game. Woods, for whatever reason, again, they have to go through a lottery system to come into the school, so there's not active recruiting like you have in other schools, but they have had strong women's soccer teams, and they are competitive when they play against a 2A team. So we'll make you aware when that's going to be on the schedule. Definitely worth going out to see. It's enjoyable to watch all those young ladies competing. And I'll tell you what, based upon what Asheebo has been telling us, it looks like it's going to be a good sports season here in Chatham County this springtime. Anything else you noticed besides some of the players that you already mentioned as to what in the sports area here in springtime in Chatham County?
Not much as of right now. It'll be interesting to see where it'll be interesting to see how far Seaforth boys tennis can go. Really good start for them. Also their boys lacrosse team, like Gene, you were just telling me, they have a lot of guys that they can bring in and out, and they're off to a good start as well. So it's just a lot. It is a lot going on between all the boys and girls lacrosse, baseball, softball, track, and tennis. So we'll have a really busy season. And also did want to touch on baseball and softball from last night. For baseball, we had Seaforth beating Chatham Central 4-3 in the Big County game. Northwood, they got the big win over Bartley Yancey 12-2, and that one Simon DeGaldo had 2 hits and 4 RBIs. Northmore, they beat Jordan Matthews 9-7, and then Chatham Charter got a big win over Southern Wake 21-2. And in softball, I think the craziest game of the night was Jordan Matthews and Bartley Yancey. That went to 8 innings. And in that one, Jordan Matthews, they were down 10-0 after 3.5 innings and rallied all the way back. And they scored 7.
Wait. I got to interrupt here. They were down 10-0?
Yes, they were down 10-0.
What's the mercy rule in softball?
I think you have to be down. I don't know the exact rule, but I think it's 15.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 15.
And I apologize for interrupting, but I mean 10-0 and they went to 8 innings. So go ahead. What you said, bottom of the third, they were down 10-0, and what happened?
Yeah, they rallied back. They scored 7 runs in the bottom of the 6th. So they probably, I think they got a couple of runs there at the bottom of the third, stayed in it, and then the 6th, that's when they exploded and tied it up. Made it to go to 8 innings and won the game at the end. And in that one, we had Marcy Clark getting 4 hits. Kelsey Morris had 3 hits and 3 RBIs, plenty of hits in the later half of that game. So, yeah, crazy win for Jordan Matthews.
I was going to say, I know the fans and the parents that watch those games. I bet when it was 10-0, they're like, oh, my goodness. And then all of a sudden you get that 7-run inning going, and it's like, okay, let's see what happens. So, yeah, I mean, sports is great because you never quite know what happens until you play the game. Lacrosse, there's only two boys lacrosse teams here in the county, Seaforth and Northwood. Last year, Northwood boys managed to make it to the final championship game. They lost that game, but did make it there. I think the final game was over at Durham Stadium. But they did play the Croatan team, and they defeated them, and it was an away game. However, they did play the Croatan team here last week, and they lost, as Asheebo reported. So the Croatan team out of the eastern part of the state, is probably one of the toughest teams out there. And then another team that will probably be tough this year, and which Northwood managed to beat last year in the tournament, was Orange High School. So those folks are going to be coming back. And I got to see the Northwood versus Seaforth game and the Croatan versus Northwood games. And Northwood players are pretty skilled. The only thing is definitely noticeable in the Seaforth game. Seaforth's got about twice as many players as Northwood, so they're able to change out bodies more often. So that's a big advantage to Seaforth. But Northwood, again, their coach, Randy Cox, if folks aren't familiar with him, he played for UNC's actually, I think, on the state Hall of Fame for lacrosse players. So he's had a lot of achievements, and his son also plays on the Northwood team. That's all I've got for lacrosse. It's going to be interesting. Asheebo and I will be at Seaforth tomorrow because they are playing. Actually, there's several games going on. We're going to be there primarily for baseball, isn't it? Who are they playing? Who's Seaforth playing against? All right. And the softball game starts at 6. So I'll be over there taking some pictures over there, then run over to the 7 o'clock game. Also, Seaforth's lacrosse team is also playing that day. So if you've got nothing to do on a Thursday, come on out. Say hey to Asheebo. Follow him on Twitter, Asheebo R38. He's got all that information going out. Is there anything else we need to cover? I think we talked about Coach Vernon. There's a track event going on Saturday, isn't there? It's over at Seaforth. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's the Chatham Invitational,
right?
If I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
it's happening this Saturday, and also too, I think at Seaforth is they're having a cheer competition too that I do plan on checking out. It's a pretty big one, so they'll be pretty busy this weekend.
Yeah, isn't it? I think it's a Special Olympics cheer competition, and Yeah, Coach Amy is over there has been pretty active in the Special Olympics involvement, and they have Seaforth provided their gym for use for those events. So again, thanks to Coach Amy for doing that. Hey, we've got some pretty good athletic directors here in Chatham County. We're fortunate to have that. Asheebo, I think you also mentioned JM now has a new football coach. Is that correct?
Yes, like I think we talked about this last week. They hired Kermit Carter last week on Tuesday to take over the program, and he's been there, pretty much since he finished up with basketball and football in '96, and he was already an assistant with the football team from 02 to 13. So he'll get the chance to be the head coach this time and try to get them, back on the right track.
All right. Anything else on sports before we need to wrap this up?
Nope. I think I got everything. Oh, we have Mr. Dula Horton. He mentioned that Saturday Jordan Matthews will be at Montgomery Central for a huge track meet. So,
all right.
That's one of the teams that will be competing over the weekend.
Yeah, folks, don't hesitate to let Asheebo or I know what's going on in the sports world here. It's a big county, a lot of sports going on. Sometimes people go, well, you don't remember our school. Well, you know what? If you just drop us a note or drop a tweet or an X note to Asheebo, we'll get that news out for you. Again, we can't be everywhere all the time. My wife doesn't want me everywhere all the time, but we'll try to help this out. Speaking of, again, we're going to be at Seaforth tomorrow. Do you know what your schedule is for next week yet, or you haven't figured that out yet?
Still haven't figured that out yet. Well, I'll know a little bit more about that after this weekend, and we'll see.
Yeah, I'm the same way. But the nice thing that I told Asheebo before we started is with daylight savings time, we do have that extra. Every day we get an extra minute of light, which I, as a photographer, really enjoy doing. Hey, folks, thanks for watching. I also appreciate the fact that right now we've got 23 of you watching us. That's the highest number we've had watching at one time. We consistently have 500 to 1,000 of you watch this live stream either live. Well, that's a total. Once we go, and it's available both on Facebook, Twitter, and also on YouTube. So thank you very much for watching. Asheebo Rojas has been with the Chatham News and Record. You're coming up to your 1-year anniversary soon, aren't you?
That'll be in August. Yep.
And that'll be in August. And I think he's been doing a great job. He knows the athletic directors out there. He knows the coaches, and he's getting that information to you, both in the paper. So pick up the paper. Look. I mentioned this to Neil Robbins, the publisher of the Chatham News and Record. Chatham County Sports is what has people interested in picking up the paper. So do us all a favor, pick up the paper. I have no interest in it except that they use my pictures occasionally. But if you want to see in print so that you can cut out the stories or cut out the pictures and put it on your refrigerator door, you need to pick up the paper and read Asheebo's articles about your kids or your friends of your kids that are playing sports here in Chatham County. Because I've talked with folks who now have kids of their own, and they still have the newspaper clippings of what they did back in high school. So Asheebo's doing a fantastic job. We may have to throw him an anniversary party sometime in August. All right, folks. Asheebo, anything else before we wrap up?
Nope. Thank you all for watching. And yeah, thank you, Mr. Dula Horton, for commenting and providing feedback, and everyone that also watches and sees us out and appreciates what we do. And we really appreciate you for supporting us and allowing us to talk about your kids and the great things that everyone is doing here in the county.
Yeah, and I think, Asheebo, I think somebody still owes you a meal out at Bear Creek from the concession stand. Someone said they're going to get you a burger or something. You need to feed this gentleman over there. All right, folks, I'm going to quit rambling. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next Wednesday at noon time.